Now, it's been branded the Nudge Unit, and it's been working in overdrive to persuade people to do everything from paying their taxes and signing up for organ donation to quitting smoking. British Prime Minister David Cameron has set up his so-called Behavioural Insight team. He set that up back in 2010, and governments around the world have followed suit.
Professor Iris Bohnet is co-chair of the Harvard Behavioural Insights Group and is a pioneer in this field. She's in Sydney as a guest of the US Study Centre and the New South Wales Government, and she joins us now. Iris, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about nudging. How does it work?
So think of people like myself as designers. We don't design clothes or we don't design buildings, but we design choices. So we help people, governments, organizations make better choices.
How do you go about that? Are you playing to human behaviour, or how does it work?
Well, think of us, maybe a good example is the GPS. The GPS doesn't tell you where to go. You determine the destination of the GPS, but at the same time, the GPS gives you some guidance of how to get there best. That's how we think about ourselves, that we help people make more informed, more accurate choices by presenting choices differently, by reminding people of certain things that they might not think about. Maybe I give you an example. Think about energy consumption. We could tax people, and we do, of course, in their energy consumption, but we could also remind people of how well they do compared to their neighbors. So I live in Massachusetts. In fact, I'm one of the victims getting on my energy bill these days a little statement which says, compared to your neighbors, you're number 4, you're number 1, you're number 26, and certainly my family installed solar power right away on our roof.
So, and it's a fairly, therefore, cost-effective way for governments to, dare I use the word, nudge people into a certain form of behaviour, in your case, installing those solar panels.
Yeah. So we would argue that there is no nudge-free world. There is design all around us. Choices come in certain ways. Food is presented in certain ways in cafeterias, and we can either do it smarter or less smart. And I think what distinguishes us from many others is that we are very careful about measuring the impact. It's very important for us to think about what works and what doesn't work, and therefore being very transparent about the kinds of things we do and the impact they have.
And there have been moves as well in some US states and certainly the United Kingdom using these so-called nudge tactics to encourage people to pay their tax on time as well.
That's absolutely right. So one intervention has been very similar to the intervention that I just told you about in energy, that people were reminded of the tax compliance of either people in general or people in their neighborhood. And it turns out that that really matters.
How do you deal with people who are by nature contrary and don't need to, and perhaps get their bristles up if they're suggested, given a suggested form of behaviour or told what to do?
So that's all right. I have no problem with that. As I said before, we are nudged no matter what. There is no nudge-free world. And so some people might like to have their salad first in the student cafeteria. Others might like to have the cookies first. But we're suggesting that there is a smarter way to do things.
Now, is there any interest in the Australian government, state governments, the federal government here in adopting those nudge tactics?
Absolutely. I've been blown away by how enthusiastic the civil service here in New South Wales, but also more broadly, really across Victoria, across the country, is about these nudges. And I think what's particularly intriguing to Australians is, first of all, that they are transparent. Secondly, that it's all about measurement. I think this government, or these governments here, not just the local governments, but also the federal government, really care about understanding what works and what doesn't work. And so, therefore, they've been very, very open, including, within the government, thinking about organizational redesign. How do we lead? How do we manage? How do we choose people? I just heard you talk about the first female soccer coach who has been chosen, a football coach who has been chosen. So we spend a lot of time thinking about how we hire people, how we promote people, and where are the gender biases in the procedures that we use.
And finally, Iris, my interest was drawn to a particular example in terms of guiding behaviour that apparently at an airport in Amsterdam, it involves a sticker of a fly being inserted on a urinal. Mm-hmm. Take us through how that works.
Well, I can't quite take you through that because that's not the bathroom I use.
but
I imagine
it has a certain effect.
So, obviously it helps people to target, and that's the whole idea of that.
Yes, and therefore saves airport cleaning costs and the like, so there's money saved in all directions. Fascinating stuff, Iris. Great having a chat to you. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.